A tragic weekend on Thunder Bay area waterways. M&R officials successfully capture a treed bear. And city officials close down a Chippewa Park landmark. Good evening and thank you for being with us tonight. It has been a deadly weekend on the waterways around Thunder Bay, with 3 people confirmed dead in 2 separate drowning incidents.
A longtime OPP sergeant says in all his years, he's never encountered a tragic weekend like this. The body of a 32-year-old man was located this morning near Silver Harbor on Lake Superior, and the woman he was with at the time has now also died in hospital. Dennis Ward has more on one of the 2 tragic incidents.
Around 10:30 Monday morning, divers from the OPP Underwater Search and Recovery Unit located the body of Kevin Spade. The 32-year-old Sioux Lookout man had been missing since Saturday after he jumped from a cliff into Lake Superior and began having trouble trying to exit the choppy water. Sergeant Dave Moskal of the Thunder Bay OPP says at the time, Spade was with 26-year-old Marlene Fox of Big Trout Lake.
There was a young lady that had gone into the water with Mr. Spade. She was found at the time of the incident, transported to hospital, and has since passed away.
OPP, along with the Canadian Coast Guard and other emergency crews, searched for Spade's body throughout the weekend. Moskal says Lake Superior is unpredictable and believes even the strongest swimmers would have had difficulty with the water conditions at the time. Still, Moskal says everyone was hoping for the best.
Of course, you always suspect, and you always hold on to hope, and we always hold on to hope. We continued the search through into darkness the day of the incident. We carried on with the search yesterday, and you always hold hope until you can confirm one way or another what the circumstances are.
The investigation into the 2 deaths is now in the hands of the regional coroner. These are not the first cliff jumping deaths this year. A 26-year-old city man died in June at a popular diving spot near the Mackenzie River. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
This weekend's other drowning occurred on the Kaministiquia River near Silver Falls. OPP carried out a recovery search this afternoon for a man who disappeared after a canoe tipped over. 31-year-old Jordan Desfosses of Peace River, Alberta, went missing in the river on Saturday. Thunder Bay OPP say he was not wearing a life jacket when the canoe he was riding in capsized. Another adult and 2 children who were in the canoe at the time made it safely to shore. Staff Sergeant Jim Graham says a body believed to be Desfosses was pulled out of the river by the OPP recovery team at about 3:30 today in the Forbes River Road area.
Underwater Search and Recovery Unit used side scanning sonar, I believe, to locate what they thought was a potential in the water, and then they dove the area that they had identified something and located the body.
These latest incidents bring the total drownings in the Thunder Bay area this year to 5. Graham says people should be aware of the dangers both on and around the water and take proper precautions. Swimmers should be aware of water conditions, while boaters should practice safety by wearing a life jacket.
Wildlife wandering into residential neighborhoods is common in Thunder Bay, but there are a few animals that can be dangerous to the public, as a black bear wandered into a Northside neighborhood today. And a caution to viewers, some may find the video of this incident to be disturbing. Thunder Bay police were called to Cox Crescent around 10:30 this morning after reports of a bear in a tree. M&R officials arrived shortly after, and the bear was tranquilized. Neighbors say this is the 3rd time in the last 5 years that a bear has been in the area. After an hour and a half, firefighters were called to the scene to possibly remove the bear from the tree with an aerial ladder. But after being tranquilized again, things came to a crashing halt.
The police showed up in front of my house, and I'm wondering, what did I do? You know, why are they going so slow? Not what did I do, but what's going on? Like, the neighborhood's a great neighborhood. And I didn't realize the wildlife around here has really become, it's not a problem, other than to eat my flowers. You know, that's deer at night. I guess the bears now just decided to move in because, you know, the garbage is tasting good. I don't know.
Conservation officers tagged the 200-pound bear before loading it into the trailer. The MNR says bears are attracted to garbage, birdseed, and apples in the area. They're reminding people to lock up their garbage and keep their yards clean.
The Fort William First Nation is making moves towards sustainable training and job opportunities for its band members. Almost $5 million of the First Nations funds are going towards the building of new roads and infrastructure. The band's also using the project to prepare for new opportunities while bettering the lives of its members at the same time. Nate Jones reports.
It's a project that was started over a year ago, and it will take another year to complete. Members of the Fort William First Nation Council say it could have been wrapped up in a matter of months if contracted out. But then there wouldn't be over 40 new jobs for their people. The extra time allowed for workers to be trained, and now they have the skills to apply to new projects.
We took a little while there building up our capacity, but we've now got our capacity built up pretty good. I'm confident we could take this show on the road. We can go do this in other communities, and we're going to try to see, and I'm confident we can take this to do other projects.
Just over 16 kilometers will be paved and resurfaced along Mission Road. Along with that, there will be new sidewalks and curbs, as well as upgrades to sewer. The $4.8 million project is using $1.8 million of crushed rock from the reserve. Council members believe there is about 30 years of life in the rock quarry, which opens up another market to capitalize on.
When looking at self-sustainability, I mean, you need to be able to put various measures in place, and you need to look at sustainable options. And when it comes to the construction division, there is a market for it. There is an industry for it, and Fort William First Nation is definitely ready and willing to jump on that and start capitalizing on that.
As part of this project, leadership in the community was looking for ways to help those who were struggling with addiction issues.
Before they can even work on the program, they got to take a drug test, and they got to be clean. And it helped my family. I had a couple of people that were on drugs, and they passed the test, and now they're working.
Bannon says that these new opportunities have led to the end of social assistance for these new workers, while instilling a new sense of pride. The band hopes to have all roads on the reserve paved and completed within a year. Nate Jones, TBT News.
Thunder Bay Fire and Rescue crews were called to the Canadian Tire parking lot located in the Thunder Centre this morning after reports a parked vehicle was engulfed in flames. When crews arrived, they found a white van on fire parked near the building and surrounded by other cars. Numerous bystanders with camera phones captured it all on video. Thunder Bay police arrived on scene first and moved some of the vehicles out of the way. Then fire crews arrived and extinguished the blaze. District Fire Chief Dirk Stady says these calls are fairly common, and in this case, a full crew was dispatched to the scene.
Our crew, it was a full response. Our crew got in here, got the fire out right away. We canceled the other pumpers. But because it was so close to a building, it required a full response.
The investigation is ongoing.
Thunder Bay's Habitat for Humanity has been forced to completely stop their salvage projects, pickups, and deliveries. This after their truck was stolen from the back of their building over the weekend. The silver 3/4-ton Dodge pickup truck was taken from the Restore location on Squire Street on Friday night. The incident has forced the organization to halt their mobile operations. The truck is used to complete daily tasks, and they're hoping, with the help of the community, the truck will be located. Habitat for Humanity CEO Diane Mitchell says the truck and its related equipment would cost around $50,000 to replace, money they don't have in the budget.
Absolutely shocking that somebody would come and do this, and I don't know how they did it. I mean, the keys were not in the vehicle, and the vehicle was in a fairly secure place, and it means that we've got going to have to find cuts in our budget somehow, which is very hard to do when I can't even have sales in our Restore, the big stuff, because we get really big stuff from our salvages and deconstructions, and that brings us in a big amount of money.
Mitchell says they're working with Thunder Bay Police to find the vehicle and hopes it will be returned as soon as possible.
It's 26 years and counting for the Atikokan Bass Classic, and the event continues to draw huge crowds. A full field of 110 professional and amateur angler teams hit the lake this past weekend, all vying for the top prize of $10,000. But as Jordan Mullaney tells us, it's the overwhelming community support that really keeps the competitors coming back year after year.
1861 yesterday. Look it.
It's been called the funnest bass tournament in Ontario, and for good reason. great bass fishing, and a big party to end it all off. Nearly 1,000 Atikokanites gathered under the big tent on Saturday for weigh-ins that would eventually crown the 2013 Bass Classic champions. 110 teams set out to catch the top 10 fish over a 2-day span that saw great weather, plenty of action, and a few good laughs. Kevin Rissanen, a former winner of the Classic, found himself swimming with the fishes after he caught a snag and lost his balance at Marmion Lake.
We didn't really have much going on anyway, so we weren't too concerned. I mean, we both laughed for about 2 hours afterwards, not to mention the fact that I'm in the water and I still have a snag.
Bob Richardson, a fishing pro out of Illinois, has attended the Classic for the last 5 years, filming an episode of his own TV show titled Outdoors in the Heartland. He says the level of competition continues to rise each year, and word is getting out on just how popular the tournament has become.
It takes the town people, it takes the crowd, and what gets me is there's 110 boats here. I started in it 5 or 6 years ago and was the biggest, fastest bass boat on a tournament trail here. Now we see all kind of Rangers, all kind of Tritons, all kind of Skeeters. You know, there's probably 25 big bass boats in this tournament.
Despite the heavy competition, Richardson says local anglers have managed to knock him out of contention in recent years, and this time was no different. Beginning day 2 in 7th place, the local father-son duo of Todd and Steve Brick from Atikokan say everything just seemed to fall into place as they came out on top of the field with more than 38 pounds of bass to take the crown.
It was just amazing, right? I teach here in Atikokan, and I see all the kids in the crowd, and they're all cheering me on, and they all wish me luck beforehand, so it's just basically a picture-perfect ending, right?
I always wanted to do it with my boy, and now we have.
The weather held for us. We had just absolutely wonderful fishing. And, you know, I'm kind of emotional right now because of Todd and Steve. They won it. And you could see that guy, Toddy, tearing up on the stage when he finally knew that he won. And I'm so happy inside.
Jordan Milani, TBT News.
After almost 30 years in business, a local bridal boutique owner is ready to call it a career. Ava's boutique owner, Ava Tucci, has been in the business for 29 years. Starting her boutique from the ground up and working for most of her life, she says she's now ready to enjoy retirement. Tucci says the most rewarding part of her job is knowing she's helped to make a bride's day extra special.
Thousands of customers, they're still coming back every day, and they remember my wedding gown was such and such, and we reminisce, and I made so many friends over these years. It's been just precious.
Tucci says she plans to spend her retirement working on her garden and enjoying winters in Florida. And she hopes to see her business taken over rather than closed down. She also wants to thank her dedicated staff and customers for 29 great years.
Major attraction at Chippewa Park will be out of commission for the rest of the summer. The historic Carousel is undergoing repairs. It has been mostly torn down, but officials hope to have it back up and running next spring in time for the 2014 summer season. The sign hangs outside the Carousel entrance, informing patrons of Chippewa Park that the merry-go-round will be closed for the season due to mechanical problems. The Carousel is more than 90 years old, and the main shaft or center pole needs fixing. It took 4 days to take apart the Carousel and will take much more time to fix the popular old ride. Ian Angus, the secretary of Friends of Chippewa Park, says that's just too long to complete this summer season.
Parks made a decision that given the time of year, and given that August is not a very high utilization month at Chippewa, they opted to put it out of commission for this year. They'll do the repairs in the fall, and it'll be back in place next spring.
The Friends of Chippewa Park will be preparing grant applications to have the historic Carousel refurbished and housed in its own building so that it can stay in place year-round. The Carousel is designated as a heritage facility by the province of Ontario. It is one of only 2 or 3 Parker carousels left in the world, and according to Angus, it's very high in historic value.
And let's head to weather now. Fiona, for those who were hoping or actually didn't really want an early fall, you can put that to rest. It was a hot and humid day out there.
Very hot, very humid, and believe it or not, there is more to come. If we take a look at what's going on, what you want to note is not necessarily the possibility of pop-up showers and thunderstorms a little bit further north. It's this hot air bumping into some warm air, and our region is going to be kind of squeezed in the middle. So that hot, humid bodies of of moisture moving into the region aren't going to disappear anytime too soon, and a little bit of those air masses bumping together could cause a little bit more pop-up showers over the next few days, and that's going to keep things kind of interesting across the region. At this hour, though, temperatures high 20s, low 30s. We've got 30 in Dryden and Fort Francis, Atikokan at 29. Thunder Bay is currently at 28. A fair amount of sunshine across the region. Even Sault Ste. Marie is at 25, but Thunder Bay actually topped out with a high of 29 today, but with that humidex, because it was so hot and sticky, it fell closer to 37, and that's with winds very light from the west, 8 to 13 kilometers per hour. Now tonight, it's going to be a very mild night indeed. You definitely want to keep those windows open, get some nice breezes through, because we're looking at winds from the north, about 8 to 12 kilometers per hour, so very light again, but a low of just 15 Celsius under partly cloudy skies. And as we head into Wednesday, I said the moist, warm air isn't going to move anywhere too quickly. We're looking at least a couple more days of anywhere from 29 to 32 degrees Celsius, which maybe not great news for some folks, but others who were, as Randy, you were saying, complaining about fall coming too soon, well, it looks like we're heading back into more summer-like weather, so got to get out there and enjoy it. Can't do much about it.
Okay, thanks very much, Fiona. Well, there will be a slight delay in the resumption of activities in the House of Commons. The Prime Minister has announced a decision to prorogue Parliament. We'll have the latest on that and more as your Monday News Hour continues.
There will be a new throne speech in the fall. Obviously, the House will be prorogued in anticipation of that. We will come back in October.
Federal politicians won't be heading back to Ottawa in September. The Prime Minister said today he plans to prorogue Parliament, start a new session in October.
Stephen Harper made his comments during the second day of a visit to Northern Canada. Julie Van Dusen has the details.
Stephen Harper is on a trip to Northern Canada. He goes every summer. Today he announced funding to train local residents for jobs in the mining industry. Harper later confirmed a rumor that's been swirling for weeks. Politicians won't be back in Ottawa on September 16th as originally scheduled. Harper plans to ask the Governor-General to prorogue Parliament, delaying its return.
There will be a new throne speech in the fall. Obviously, the House will be prorogued in anticipation of that. We will come back in October.
Stephen Harper has been criticized for proroguing Parliament in the past. In 2008, opposition parties planned to topple his minority government by forming a coalition. Harper responded by shutting down Parliament. The next year, Harper was facing questions about the treatment of Afghan detainees. Again, he prorogued Parliament to take the spotlight off the issue. Ending this session of Parliament means some outstanding bills will die, and prorogation allows Harper to delay questions in the Commons on the messy Senate spending scandal. 3 of the 4 senators now under fire for expense claims irregularities were appointed by Harper, including Pamela Wallin.
As you know, the senator has not been a member of our caucus for some months, but I would expect that action will be taken to ensure full accountability for any breaking of rules.
Harper also said he is planning to lead his party into the next election expected in 2015. It would be his 5th campaign as Conservative leader. Julie Van Dusen, CBC News, Ottawa.
The shooting death of a young Toronto man has sparked a huge outcry. Today, the police officer accused of killing him was formally charged. Adrian Arsenault has more.
The video has circulated and infuriated globally. So many have already made up their minds about the scene and the shooting, about 18-year-old Sami Yatim and the 9 police bullets that killed him.
Think before you kill! Think before you kill!
Murder has been the public cry. Now it's an official charge. Constable James Forcillo, who fired every shot, now charged with second-degree murder. He's expected to turn himself in tomorrow to have a bail hearing at Old City Hall in Toronto, where he spent years as a court services officer. His union standing firmly behind him.
Very disappointed. We're always disappointed when we see one of our officers charged, but again, second-degree murder, we find this very disappointing. It's a lose-lose situation, quite frankly, for the family and our officer, and our officer is definitely a casualty of this incident.
A murder or manslaughter charge for an officer on duty is incredibly rare in Canada. Convictions even more unusual. What happens with this case will undoubtedly be studied by police forces nationally. There are so many questions to answer. Why did Forcillo fire at all? What happened after the first 3 shots? Here, you can see Yatim fall to the ground. It was only then that 6 more shots were fired. And what were the other 22 police officers doing? How is it that a supervisor then tasered Yatim once he was fatally wounded?
He did assault Mr. Yatim without any possible excuse. The man was lying on the ground dying after being shot 9 times. And for him to be tasered is quite extraordinary.
Sami Yatim's family is meeting today with the Special Investigations Unit, fully aware that they may never really get all the answers to their questions, but they say they hold no grudge with police and they have every faith in the justice system to do the right thing. They just now have to wait. Adrian Arsenault, CBC News, Toronto.
A source says Egypt's ambassador to Canada has been summoned to meet with senior Canadian officials to discuss the arrest of 2 Canadians in Egypt. John Grayson, a Toronto-based filmmaker and York University professor, and Tariq Lubani, a doctor from London, Ontario, were on their way to Gaza when they were arrested in Cairo on Friday. Canada's ambassador in Cairo has met with the 2 men. He'll also be meeting with foreign affairs officials to find out what charges the men may be facing. Meanwhile, there are more and more questions being asked as Egypt struggles with almost 1,000 deaths and the threat of more violence. Nala Ayed has the latest on that story.
Even on a peaceful morning, Egypt's conundrums must seem daunting. How to sweep past so much violence? how to live again in a state of emergency. We are afraid. We're all depressed. We don't know what to do, she says. All day we're watching the news. We've lost the joy of life. Last week's violence pitting the military against the Muslim Brotherhood has ebbed, but not entirely. Some were arrested last night, dozens apparently killed in police custody, and today, more than 20 policemen killed in the Sinai. Where does it stop? The newspapers offer few answers. And depending who you listen to, Egypt is either living a military coup or a fight against terrorists, as these men believe. We are with Sisi heart and soul, he says, referring to the military chief. And we are with anyone who will achieve reconciliation for Egypt. How to help Egypt, even how to react, has been a conundrum for friends in the West. The EU is considering aid cuts and an arms embargo, but is wary about losing a key partner.
It's absolutely important to be engaged constructively in Egypt and at the same time respond to the current situation.
The tougher job will be Egypt's, how to avoid being ostracized and how to deal with the Brotherhood now. The military chief says there's room for everyone in the political arena, yet the government is considering an outright ban. Spokesman Sharif Shouki says we must find a legal route to the dissolution of this group, and this is currently being studied, he says. Others tried that before, including former President Hosni Mubarak, behind bars since he was deposed 2 years ago. Judicial officials say he could be released this week as he waits for his next trial. Yet another flashpoint in a country rife with conundrums. Nala Ayed, CBC News, London.
Celebrated Olympian Oscar Pistorius has officially been charged with murder. The man known as the Blade Runner was back in court today over the shooting death of his girlfriend. This was the scene in Pretoria this morning. Pistorius admits to firing the shots that killed Riva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day. The double amputee says he was acting in self-defense, mistaking Steenkamp for an intruder. The model would have turned 30 years old today.
It's a boat with a lot of history behind it and a lot of speed. And after 2 years worth of restorations, the Miss Canada 4 is back on the water. Red Sharon has that story.
To hear it roar, you'd never know Miss Canada 4 is over 60 years old. But that's a 3,000 horsepower Spitfire engine sitting inside her wooden frame, one that helped power this Canadian boat faster than any other back in 1950.
Miss Canada holds the lead for 6 laps.
In the cockpit, flying across the water, were Harold and Lorna Wilson, the first Canadians to become world champions in any motorsport. He, the dashing young driver, and she, his co-pilot and chief mechanic.
My dad wanted to be the fastest man in the world. He was fearless, and she was as well.
In October of 1950, they went after the world speed record. But on their second try, disaster.
She blew up the transmission box and came to an inglorious stop about 50 yards short of the finish line.
Even so, Miss Canada 4 had clocked an unofficial speed record of over 320 kilometers an hour. Faster than any boat had ever run. It was also the last time the Wilsons raced. They retired and passed away a few years ago.
Let her down.
But their boat, the Miss Canada 4, is about to come back to life. A team has spent 2 years rebuilding her top to bottom, thanks to the deep pockets and abiding Canadian passion of entrepreneur Bobby Genovese.
I think it's a great investment.
Yeah, it's an investment in a piece of Canadian history.
It is. You know, there's only one of them.
Today, he takes his first ride. On the water, Miss Canada looks stunning, but is more of a miss than a hit when it comes to speed. She quickly overheats, but it doesn't matter. This team has every intention of working the gremlins out, and soon, Miss Canada 4 will be on tour. Who knows? Maybe even coming to a marina near you. Red Sharon, CBC News on Muskoka Bay, Ontario.
All right, check out these wheels. This is a fast car with a big price tag. It's a 1967 Ferrari Spider. The convertible's sold at auction in California for, only $27 million. It's now the property of Canadian fashion mogul Lawrence Stroll. One of his hobbies is collecting vintage Ferraris.
You guys want to buy me one of those?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sure.
Okay.
Let's take a look at activity in the markets because we all going to win big there if we're going to buy one of those. In Toronto today, the TSX punched 148 points to 12,588. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 70 points to 15,010. The Nasdaq slipped 13 points to 35,89. Canadian dollar closed at 96.69 cents US. That's down 3/100. Gold fell $5 to $1,365 an ounce. Oil slipped 36 cents, 107.10 a barrel. For long-suffering Toronto sports fans who put up with the follies of the Leafs and the Blue Jays this year, there is some hope on the horizon. It's coming from the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, thought they did it with smoke and mirrors when they won the Grey Cup, beating Calgary last year. But so far, so good as we approach the midway mark of the season. Their offense is in gear. They're playing some pretty good football, something they haven't done very much in Winnipeg this year. Right, Holly?
Oh,
that would be correct.
Well, the Toronto Argonauts are flashing the form that led them to a Grey Cup win last November, giving the Rogers Centre faithful plenty to cheer about last night as they made it 4 straight wins against Edmonton. Early in the first, Zach Collaros is in for Ricky Ray on short yardage, dropped the play action and rolls out and dumps it off to Xander Robinson. He has all kinds of room. The big man rumbles down the sidelines. He'll go all the way for the touchdown. It's a 45-yard major to make it 7-0 for the Boltmen. Second quarter now 9-7 Edmonton. Ray goes end zone for Jason Barnes. That's an 8-yard TD. Bring the Argos back in front 14-9. It was a beautiful night at the Rogers Centre with the dome open. Late in the first, Mike Riley, what a game he had, looking deep for Fred Stamps in double coverage. But Stamps hauls it in, and it's a 45-yard pickup. After a Toronto offside penalty, Riley finds Kerry Koch in the end zone. It's a 4-yard official score. Koch doing a good job not to bail on the pavement. 16-14, but the Argos had a field goal. They led by 1.5. Third quarter, Ray picks up where he left off. He'll find rookie John Childs, who has 4 majors in only 3 games this year. That's a 31-yarder, double blue by 8. Later in the quarter, now 26-16. It's Ray finding Chad Owens for the 6-yard score. Owens takes exception to the hit from the defender. He would get flagged 15 yards for roughing. The Eskimos would launch a late comeback, but the Argos hung on to win it 36-33, so they have won 4 in a row. Staying with the gridiron, no doubt there's a passion for football in Thunder Bay. All it takes is one drive past the James Street Fields to know this. The Thunder Bay Minor Football Association has been running their annual summer program at those fields over the past couple of months. 10 years ago, there were about 12 to 15 kids a team, but now that number has jumped to 25 per squad. Matt Scooby is more on the rise and development of football players in the city.
Liam Stewart is 14 years old, but he's already been playing football for half of his life.
Being able to hit someone, I don't know, I just love playing it. There's lots of team sports and everything. Everybody's really nice, and it's just easy to get along with everybody.
Stewart is part of the Thunder Bay Minor Football Association's summer program. Over 100 kids aged 9 to 14 are on the gridiron playing organized football this summer. 14-year-old Darren Skelhaus is also among that group.
All my friends everybody plays hockey, and I wanted to try something new at first, so I came here, and I met a lot of nice kids, and it was fun.
And that's exactly what president of the organization and coach of the grade 8 team, Rob Thompson, preaches. He says it's a fun first league, but they're also focused on development. Whether it's pulling a 6,000-pound truck or getting footwork right during drills, the hope is that kids will move on to play high school football.
I think if you ask the high school coaches, they know the kids that have played minor football. They can, if you go, I'm pretty proud of the fact when you go to a high school football game and you listen to the names that are being said, I'm going to say, 90% of the kids are, come from minor football. Not that they're not great athletes somewhere else, and there are some kids, but, you hear those names and I smile pretty wide to, know they came alumni of Thunder Bay Minor Football.
It helps a lot because lots of the kids aren't going to have as much experience as lots of players that get to play before they go. So they learn a lot of the basics.
The program culminates with all 5 teams traveling to Blaine, Minnesota next weekend to take part in the Minnesota Youth Football Showdown. It's the 5th year the Knights have taken part in the 3-day tournament, and being the only league representing Canada, the pressure is on to compete against some stiff competition.
Thunder Bay is we're pretty tough, and we got some really talented players here. Again, the rule changes kind of hurt us to start, right? But we have really great coaches that know both games very well. So I think we prepare our teams pretty good to go down there and compete.
Matt Scooby, TBT Sports.
NFL news, Kansas City has traded receiver John Baldwin to San Francisco for fellow receiver A.J. Jenkins. Both are former first-round picks who have yet to pan out. In preseason ball last night, first quarter, it's 3-0 Giants. The Colts' Andrew Luck with a quick hitter to Reggie Wayne, who casually reaches up with one hand. He hauls in the pass. No big deal for the Pro Bowler, who should go over 1,000 reception receiving yards for his career this year as he makes it with his block.
It's in the air and caught for the touchdown by Reggie Wayne.
Well, as you can see, Reggie Wayne's ready for the regular season. An outstanding catch on a pass that should have been picked. It's 10-3 Indy. Second quarter, Luck drops back, looks to the corner of the end zone, finds T.Y. Hilton. Also a great catch as he brings it in. They get both feet down. It's an 18-yard touchdown reception. Colts on top, 17-3. They go on to win it 20-12. The Blue Jays have the night off before opening a 4-game series in the Bronx with the New York Yankees tomorrow afternoon. They were trying to avoid losing this series at the Trop to Tampa Bay for a 20th consecutive time yesterday afternoon. And the Rays mascot having some fun with Jays call-up Kevin Pillar before this one. It's always fun when the mascots get involved. St. Petersburg, Florida native Todd Redmond got the call on the mound for the Blue Jays. It's the first time he has ever started in his hometown, but Evan Longoria in the first takes Redmond deep and gone to the opposite field. It's a solo shot, his 24th of the year, and Mama Redmond not impressed. It was also Pooch in the Park Day at Tropicana Field as a bunch of dogs took in the afternoon affair. Bottom in the fifth, Escobar drives one to the gap in left center. Pillar and Anthony Ghost try to make the grab. Ghost had it for a second, but it was knocked away by the body of Pillar. Those two not on the same page despite playing most of the year in AAA. Still 1-0, bottom of the seventh. Double E Edwin Encarnacion changes that. It's his 31st long ball of the year to left. That solo shot would tie things up at 1. Only the second hit of the game for Toronto. Top 9, Double E appears to do it again, but the ball hits the top of the wall and it stays in play. Brett Lurie thinks it's out. There was no review, and Encarnacion ends up with a double. He was stranded. So we go to extras. In the 10th, Jose Lobaton got the walk-off hit Friday against the Jays, and he will do it again on Sunday as he hammers the Brad Lincoln offering over the fence and right. The Rays walk off. The Jays 2-1 the final. They take 2 of 3 in that series. Senior men's baseball last night, the Boston Pizza Red Sox would split a pair, winning the opener 9-4 over the Thunder Bay Wolves, only to drop the nightcap 11-9 to the Coastal Steel Orioles. Now the misplays of the week.
Yonder Alonso just flat drop a ball that, most 8-year-olds are going to handle.
Remember when you were a kid and you had that type of play in Little League? You hit it back to the mound and they start throwing it around and you can circle the bases and you said, hey, Mom, I hit a home run today.
Oh dear, Jordan Archer. It's a moment to forget as quickly as possible for him, unfortunately.
A little soft liner, and the bat goes flying right at Sogard and knocks him down after he makes the catch. I have never seen this before.
Bautista didn't see it, still doesn't see it. Fan down the right field line. Looks like he's John at Bautista, and Jose says, just sit down, please.
Here's a bad snap from Berger to Castle. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar couldn't have caught that snap.
That's funny. Kyle Seager makes a play on this, and he goes to a full arm fake. Who is he going to throw it to? This is great. He arm fakes right at Sean Rodriguez. Who is that throw going to?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of ketchup on that Permane sandwich.
Somebody spilled their fries there right in front of the ketchup.
Iglesias tried to bunt, and that ball got him. Where? Oh, my goodness. Hope it didn't hit him where I think it hit him. I think it did. And if it did, it's going to be a while before Jose gets to his feet. Okay, one look's enough.
I was always wondering what happened to Ricky Henderson. Now I think I know.
Still hanging around the ballpark. All right, thanks very much, Randy.
All right, well, tonight we're back with another episode of Under the Dome, a very interesting and unique drama on Global Thunder Bay. With more, here's Teletalk.
We're challenging your mind, the elements, and the odds with your Monday night lineup on Global Thunder Bay. Starting at 8 on Psych. When Gus babysits Rachel's son, a simple trip to the circus turns deadly. Then at 9, it's Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls, and 4 teams navigate a dangerous glacier. And at 10 p.m. on Under the Dome, Big Jim and Barbie discover that their lives are intertwined. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay tonight, mysteries abound and suspects are everywhere. First at 8 on Murdoch Mysteries, an unpopular Eaton's department store manager is murdered. And at 9, a bipolar musician may have murdered his music partner on Cracked. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Well, most of the summer it's been below seasonal, but this past week and even today, Fiona, it's beautiful and very hot.
Very hot, very humid, very sultry weather going on across the country in many parts, and Thunder Bay is definitely one of them. We topped out with a high of 29, with the humidex felt closer to 37, and that's with winds relatively light, at times up to 13 kilometers per hour from the west, but at other times in the single digits still. We take a look at what's going on in this hour. Vancouver has had mainly cloudy skies today, just a little bit of clearing in the last couple of hours. They're currently at 21, 12 in Prince George. And no, that's not a mistake. They are under severe thunderstorm watch. There's some pretty nasty weather developing up to the northwest of the province. Edmonton currently at 17 with some rain and thunderstorms that just started in the last couple of hours. Calgary at 25 with lots of sunshine. 26 in Saskatoon, 30 in Regina with the humidex feels close to about 33, 34. Lots of sunshine today. Winnipeg also enjoying the sun, and humidex topped out at 38 in the last couple of hours. As we head into southern Ontario, the humidex again is being felt. Low 30s seems to be the magic number for much of southern Ontario, Toronto, and even up into Ottawa and Montreal. Meanwhile, Quebec City currently at 25 with also lots of sunshine. Slightly above seasonal temperatures in the Maritimes. Fredericton is currently under sunny skies. Charlottetown at 21 is partly cloudy. 25 in Halifax. And St. John's, well, they're a little bit cooler, but they have some pretty gusty southwestern winds, so they're experiencing that at this time. Take a look at what's been going on today. Fairly calm across the region, but as we head into tomorrow, we're looking at possibility of some cooling temperatures as we head overnight into Wednesday, and late in the day, possible pop-up showers, and that will continue into Wednesday as well with possible thunderstorms. Remember, all that heat to the south, and we're kind of being squished between it, so we could get some interesting activity over the next 48 hours. Temperature-wise, this is where we're at in the high 20s across much of northwestern Ontario. You can see fairly consistent well to the west. Overnight lows are going to be quite mild and into the mid-double digits or in the mid-teens. As we head into tomorrow, you can see that push of hot air from the south that will diminish a little bit on Wednesday, but we're still in the high 20s. Thursday, it starts to cool down, especially in the Thunder Bay area, just along the lake shore. Just have to hit a little bit further west to stay in that pocket of heat. Overnight tonight, we've got a risk of a thunderstorm up to the northwest. Just a few clouds in Fort Frances and pretty much everywhere else. You can see the temperatures are above seasonal or well above seasonal, to be honest. We're looking at 20 Celsius for both Dryden and Canoeer overnight tonight. As we head into tomorrow, 30s are coming back. 30, 31 in Fort Frances, 30 in Greenstone, but as I said, with a lot of instability associated with it. So you might actually get a little bit of a break from the heat with a little bit of rain. At this hour, we're at 27 with the humidex feels closer to 33 tonight, a low of 15 under partly cloudy skies and a mild night at that. Starting the day, mainly sunny, 17 by noon. We could be up to 26 with winds from the southwest up to 19 kilometers per hour. By 4 o'clock, well, there's that risk of showers or thunder showers. And the humidex, again, could be up to the high 30s, 37, 38, and that's with a high temperature-wise of 28. Wednesday, we're looking at a high of 31, but not quite as much humidity as that cold front starts to push in. By Thursday, we're back to slightly more seasonal values, 23, 22 on Friday, 22 again on Saturday. And that, folks, is your forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Fiona. For those of you who aren't dealing with the heat all that well, stay with us. We've got a suggestion, a quick, fun way to beat the high temperatures. Of course, you're going to have to get some friends together, a whole lot of friends. That's coming up next.
Well, here's a good way to beat the summer heat. A good old-fashioned water balloon fight. Folks in Seattle got together to try to set a record for the world's largest water balloon fight. Hundreds took part, and every one of them got wet. I think it's a great idea.
Let's recap our top story of the day. It has been a busy day and a tragic day for OPP underwater recovery teams. They managed to pull 2 bodies from the water, one in the Silver Bay area, one in Silver Falls. Brings the death total from 2 separate incidents this weekend up to 3.
And Canada's in action. It's a must-win situation against Panama at the Little League World Series in Pennsylvania. We'll have highlights later on.
And a mild night tonight, a low 15. But tomorrow, even though it'll start out sunny, you might want to bring your umbrella if you're heading out in the afternoon. Could see a few showers, maybe even a thunderstorm pop up here and there. But the good news is there's going to be lots of sunshine and heat, at least to start the day. So
that's your early look at news, weather, and sports. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a good night.